Here is a deep, detailed, and very simple summary of the entire passage, like the best teacher would to a curious beginner who wants to truly understand everything. Big picture. This passage is about a complicated time in medieval Indian history, when many royal families were fighting for power. Kings and princes were making alliances, breaking rules, seeking revenge, arranging marriages, and fighting wars. All to stay in power or grab more of it. It especially talks about the aftermath of King Bhoja's death, a great poet king from central India, struggles in the Paramara kingdom, how the Kalyana Chalukyas got involved, the Chola Empire's troubles and royal family drama, political marriages to gain allies, and how kingdoms like Vengi, Kalyana, Dara, and Raichur became parts of a much larger chess game. Let's go part by part. Fight for the throne after King Bhoja's death. King, a Paramara king. He was a very famous and wise king, known for supporting poets and writers. After his death, there was no clear next king, so many people fought to become the ruler of his kingdom. One ambitious prince wanted the throne badly. He even asked for help from enemy kingdoms, the Kalachuris and the Kalyana Chalukyas, which was risky and unusual. 2. Kalyana Chalukyas step in to help. King Someshvara of the Kalyana Chalukyas realized that if he helped this prince win the throne in Dara, it could bring peace to his northern border. So he sent his second son, Prince Vikramaditya, to help this Paramara prince become king. This was also useful for Vikramaditya because he was already trying to make his own political allies. 3. Who was King Bhoja? King Bhoja was not just a warrior, he was a poet king, a man of wisdom, books, language, and beauty. He became a legend in Indian stories, remembered for being the best judge of poetry and good writing. Even though world history doesn't talk much about him, Indian literature remembers him as a hero and ideal king. He rewarded poets who wrote clever or beautiful verses. He made his court a center of culture. 4. Meanwhile, in the Chola Empire, Prince Vikramaditya returned south after helping in the north. But the Chola kingdom was again getting ready to fight for the Raichur Doab, a fertile land between two rivers. This was because their previous king, Rajadharaj, had been killed violently in battle, which made them want revenge. 5. Chola internal family problems. After Rajadharaja died, his brother Rajendra II became king, and nobody argued at first. Not even Rajadhiraja's sons. But now, Rajendra II chose his own son, Raja Mahendra, to be the next king. This sideline ignored another powerful person, Rajendra II's younger brother, Veera Rajendra, who was also a son of Rajendra III and wanted the throne too. 6. Marriage politics and promises. To strengthen his son's claim to the throne, Rajendra VI arranged a family marriage. His daughter, Madhurantaki, married Rajiga, a prince of the Vengi Chalukyas, who was her cousin. Rajiga was also the son of their sister Amangai and the Vengi king Rajaraja Narendra. Rajendra II promised Rajiga two things: that he would help him become king in Vengi, that he would remove the influence of the Kalyana Chalukyas, the powerful northern kingdom, from Vengi's politics. Final summary in one simple paragraph. After King Bhoja died, a fight broke out over his throne. One prince even took help from enemy kingdoms like the Kalachuris and Kalyana Chalukyas. King Someshvara of the Kalyana Chalukyas saw this as a chance to bring peace to his northern border and sent his son Vikramaditya to help that prince become king. Bhoja, though not known globally, was a brilliant and legendary king remembered in Indian stories as a judge of great writing. Meanwhile, in the south, the Cholas were planning war again to take back Raichur and were still angry about the battlefield death of Rajadhiraja. Inside the Chola family, Rajendra II made his son crown prince, which upset his ambitious brother Veera Rajendra. To strengthen his family's power, he arranged a cousin marriage between his daughter and Rajiga of Vengi and promised Rajiga support to become king and freedom from the control of the Kalyana Chalukyas. Would you like a family tree chart, a timeline, or a map to make all of this even clearer visually? Here is a great, deep, and very detailed summary of the passage you gave, explained in the simplest way possible, like a story for a complete beginner. Deep, detailed summary. The fight for Vengi, 1061 CE. Background. Cholas and Chalukyas were powerful rivals. In the 1000 CE, two big empires were constantly fighting in South India. The Cholas, from Tamil Nadu, powerful and rich. The Kalyana Chalukyas, from Karnataka, also strong and ambitious. Both empires wanted control over a very important region called Vengi. Vengi was very rich, with good land and resources, located between the Chola and Chalukya territories, a perfect place for control. Vengi was ruled by a king named Rajaraja Narendra. He had Chola blood. His mother was a Chola princess, and also Chalukya blood. His father was from the Chalukyas. So both empires claimed him as theirs. Vikramaditya's surprise attack fails, 1061 CE. While the Cholas were still gathering soldiers to possibly attack the Chalukyas, Prince Vikramaditya of the Chalukyas decided to strike first. He tried to attack the Cholas before they were ready, but his plan failed. Chola Prince Raja Mahendra claimed he pushed the Chalukya army back with just one war elephant during a battle at Kudala Sangama, a place where two rivers meet and become the Tungabhadra River. This battle didn't solve anything. It was inconclusive, meaning no side truly won. But the fight was interrupted by something bigger. The real crisis. The Vengi king dies. Suddenly, in the year 1061, Rajaraja Narendra, the king of Vengi, died. This changed everything. Why? Because now everyone wanted to decide who would next king of Vengi. Vijayaditya VII seizes Vengi. The first to act was named Vijayaditya II. He was the half-brother of the dead king, different mother. He had wanted to rule Vengi for nearly 50 years, never got the chance. Now that the king was dead, Vijayaditya entered Vengi and took control. He finally fulfilled his life's dream of ruling Vengi. He also made his own son the next king of Vengi. It seemed like the Chalukyas had won Vengi. Samshvara changes plans, but old wounds remain. The main Chalukya emperor at this time was Samshvara. He had earlier not supported Vijayaditya, but now he agreed to let him rule Vengi. Even though Vijayaditya was now getting what he wanted, Samshvara had once betrayed him. This is important later. The Cholas don't stay quiet. The Cholas quickly realized what had happened. The Chalukyas had taken control of Vengi, but the Cholas weren't ready to give up. They had their own candidate for the Vengi throne. Rajiga Vengi Chalukya, son of the dead king, Rajaraja Narendra. Rajiga had a very strong claim. He was the son of the former king. He was also the nephew and son-in-law of Chola emperors, very close to the Chola royal family. So, to protect their influence over Vengi, the Cholas decided to send an army. They sent Veera Rajendra Chola, younger brother of the Emperor Rajendra II, to lead the army and restore Rajiga as king. Why this moment was so important? Vengi was more than just land. It was a symbol of power. If the Cholas lost Vengi, their enemies, the Chalukyas, would grow too powerful. If the Chalukyas controlled Vengi, they could cut into Chola territory and weaken their empire. So this wasn't just a family drama. It was a major turning point in South Indian history. In summary, like a simple story, two big kingdoms, Cholas and Chalukyas, wanted a rich land called Vengi. A Chalukya prince tried to attack the Cholas early but failed. The king of Vengi died, a crisis started. His half-brother Vijayaditya quickly took over Vengi and made his son king. The Chalukyas were happy. They had power in Vengi. But the Cholas acted fast. They supported Rajiga, son of the dead king and their own family member. The Cholas sent an army, led by Veera Rajendra, to fight and win Vengi back. This moment began a new and dangerous phase in the long Chola-Chalukya rivalry. Would you like a timeline, character chart, or map next to help you remember and visualize it all? Here is a great and detailed summary of this passage, in very simple English, like explaining to a beginner with no background and covering every important part with extra clarity. Summary 1062 to 1063 CE, Chalukyas, Cholas, and the bloody fight for Vengi. 1. Background tension between Cholas and Chalukyas. For many years, the two great kingdoms of South India, the Cholas and the Kalyana Chalukyas, were rivals. The biggest area they were fighting over was Vengi, a rich and important region in eastern Deccan. Both ties to Vengi. It was like a house that both families believed they had the right to own. 2. The Big War in 1062. In 1062 CE, the Chola and Chalukya armies finally met in a major war. The war was full of anger and revenge because both sides had hurt each other before. The Chalukya king, Vijayaditya II, had recently made his own son the king of Vengi, but during the battle, this son was killed. Number 3. Cruelty and revenge. The Chalukyas managed to carry away their prince's dead body, which saved them some honor. But a Chalukya general was also killed, and the Cholas cut off his head, just like the Chalukyas had done earlier to a Chola king. The general's beautiful daughter was captured, and the Chola prince Veera Rajendra did something cruel. He ordered her nose to be cut off. This kind of violence showed how women were often used to hurt the pride of enemy families during war. 4. The sad victory of Vijayaditya. Even though Vijayaditya finally got what he wanted, control of Vengi, he lost his beloved son in the process. He was deeply heartbroken and did not want to sit on the throne. But his loyal friends and advisors convinced him to accept the throne, even though it was full of grief and sorrow. It was like fate had played a cruel trick, giving him his dream, but making it empty and painful. 5. The Chola throne crisis in 1063. In the next year, 1063, the Chola king Rajendra II died. His son Raja Mahendra was supposed to take over, but he suddenly disappeared, and it's unclear whether he died before or after his father. Rajendra Sikha's younger brother, Veera Rajendra, who had just fought in Vengi, rushed back to the capital and took the throne for himself. 6. Rajiga's lost inheritance. While Veera Rajendra was busy taking the Chola throne, he abandoned Vengi, allowing Vijayaditya to keep it. But there was another prince named Rajiga, who had a strong right to rule Vengi. He was Shah Vijayaditya's nephew, and a Chola prince by marriage. Rajiga was ignored and lost the kingdom that was supposed to be his by family right, his patrimony. After this, Rajiga and his supporters began to look for new ways to gain power again. Big picture, what this tells us. This story is not just about kings and battles. It's about family betrayal, ambition, revenge, and the deep cost of power. Victory came with pain. Vijayaditya got Vengi, but lost his son. Veera Rajendra got the Chola throne, but left his allies behind. Innocent people, like the general's daughter, were hurt and humiliated, showing how brutal medieval politics could be. The fight for Vengi was not over. The next generation would continue to struggle for land, throne, and family pride. Would you like a simple family tree or a timeline of these events to make things even clearer? Here is a great, deep, detailed summary of the entire passage in the simplest possible English, like I'm explaining it to a curious beginner who wants to understand everything clearly. Summary of the passage, 1062 to 1068, South India versus Chalukyas and the Vengi crisis. After many years of war, the Chola Empire was in serious trouble. The new Chola emperor, Veera Rajendra, had just taken the throne, but his empire was weakened by endless battles and many internal and external problems. 1. Empire in crisis. For 50 years, the Cholas had been fighting almost non-stop wars, especially with their powerful northern rivals, the Kalyana Chalukyas, lost control of important regions to the Chalukyas. Inside their empire, Tamil chiefs, cities, merchants, and lords had grown too powerful and didn't fully listen to the emperor anymore. All this made ruling the empire very difficult. 2. No more strength like before. Earlier Chola emperors had gained fame and power through military victories, but now Veera Rajendra did not have enough soldiers, money, or food. The land wasn't producing enough crops, and rebellions kept happening. The Chalukyas were growing stronger, while the Cholas were getting weaker. 3. Rebellions. There were constant rebellions in Lanka, Sri Lanka, which the Cholas had earlier conquered. The Srivijaya kingdom, Indonesia and Malaysia, was to help with its political problems. Veera Rajendra sent Prince Rajiga there with a small army around the year 1068. But helping others while his own empire was breaking apart was very hard and expensive. 4. Aging king, a father's hope. Veera Rajendra was getting old. He deeply wanted his son, Adhirajendra, to become the next king and save the Chola Empire. He needed to make bold, risky moves to protect his empire and his son's future. 5. Meanwhile, the Chalukyas and Vengi. Vijayaditya VII, the ruler of Vengi, a region between Cholas and Chalukyas, had lost his son in battle, but was still active in politics. He had returned to making alliances and strategies. He was working with his powerful ally, Prince Vikramaditya of the Kalyana Chalukyas. Big picture summary. By the late 1060s, South India was full of tension and struggle. The once mighty Chola Empire was exhausted, and its emperor, Veera Rajendra, was old and desperate to pass the throne to his son. But he faced too many problems at once. Powerful enemies, rebellions, lost land, weak economy, and growing independence among Tamil chiefs. At the same time, the Chalukyas and their allies were taking advantage of the chaos, especially in the region of Vengi, which both dynasties wanted to control. Both sides were making strategic moves, trying to outsmart and outfight each other. It was a dangerous and unstable time, and the future of the Chola dynasty was at serious risk. Would you like this entire sequence of events turned into a storyline, timeline, or map diagram? Visualize the Chola-Chalukya struggle better? Here is a great, deep, and simple summary of the whole passage you shared. I will explain everything clearly and add more background where needed so it's easy to understand, like a full movie plot summary. Deep and clear summary, in easiest words. Background. 2 powerful kingdoms. There were 2 major kingdoms in South India in the 1000 CE. 1. Cholas, powerful empire from Tamil Nadu. Their capital was Gangaikonda Cholapuram. 2. Kalyana Chalukyas, another strong kingdom in Karnataka. Their capital was Kalyana, now in modern-day Basavakalyan. They had been fighting each other for many decades over land, power, and pride. 1. The Chalukya king becomes very sick, 1067 CE. The Chalukya king, Samshvara, becomes very ill with a dangerous fever. His priests try hard to heal him, but nothing seems to work. While he's bedridden, his son, Crown Prince Sameshvara II, starts ruling in his place. Another son, Vikramaditya VI, who is smart and politically active, is away making his own secret plans to gain power. 2. Cholas attack, while Chalukyas are weak. Seeing their enemy weak, the Cholas launch a sudden attack. They capture Chalukya officers and do something shocking. They cut off their heads and nail them to the walls of their own capital, Gangaikonda Cholapuram. This is done to humiliate and frighten the Chalukyas. They also publicly insult a Chalukya diplomat by putting a mocking sign around his neck, calling King Sameshvara a coward. 3. Chola poets make up stories to show off. The Chola poets exaggerate the story. They claim King Sameshvara asked for a rematch battle. He gave the date and place, but then ran away and hid in the sea instead of fighting. The Chola king, Veera Rajendra, then burned and conquered the entire Deccan, central India. But none of this actually happened. It was fake propaganda to entertain the Chola public and make the king look like a hero. 4. The Chola king has a smarter plan. Behind the scenes, Veera Rajendra, the Chola king, was doing something smarter. He made peace with an old enemy, Vijayaditya VII, a king from Vengi. This man had lost his son in a war with the Cholas and had been defeated badly before. Now he surrendered peacefully and agreed to serve as a vassal, a small king under the Chola emperor. Veera Rajendra then proudly said, "My brother's promise to control Vengi has come true." 5. Trouble brewing from a young prince, Rajiga. But not everyone was happy. A young Vengi Chalukya prince named Rajiga was very angry. He felt he deserved to rule Vengi. Now the throne was given to someone else, Vijayaditya, and he was left out. To keep him quiet, the Cholas gave him a small area to rule in Chhattisgarh, central India. also allowed him to control some old Pallava lands near Kanchi, Tamil Nadu. Rajiga pretended to be loyal, but inside he was angry and ambitious. He soon started fighting with Prince Vikramaditya of the Chalukyas, beginning a lifelong rivalry. 6. Final message, a hidden danger. Virarajendra thought Rajiga was not a threat, just a small, grateful prince. But a modern scholar, Whitney Cox, says this was a big mistake. Rajiga was actually clever, ambitious, and dangerous. One day, he would surprise everyone. Main themes and lessons. Even when a king looks weak, like 6 Samshvara, there are always people fighting to take his place. Propaganda and poetry were used to make kings look powerful, even if the real story was different. Giving a small role to an ambitious young man like Rajiga can backfire if you underestimate his goals. Behind flashy battles and insults, real politics happens quietly, with alliances, vassals, and strategic moves. Would you like a simple timeline, family chart, or a map to see how all this connects visually? Here's a great, deep, and very detailed summary of the passage you shared, written in the simplest, clearest way possible, like teaching a beginner or a child, with extra context added for better understanding. Who are the main characters? Prince Vikramaditya, a smart, ambitious prince from the Kalyana Chalukya family. Veera Rajendra, the current emperor of the Cholas, a powerful South Indian dynasty. Rajiga Vengi Chalukya, a young prince from the Vengi Chalukya branch who had lost power but still had ambitions. Vijayaditya VII, an older member of the Vengi Chalukyas who had once been powerful but had lost everything, and later joined the Cholas. The situation. By the late 1060s, Prince Vikramaditya was working behind the scenes, trying to achieve a very big goal. He wanted to become the next king of the Kalyana Chalukyas. But instead of fighting for the throne with swords, he was using clever strategies and alliances. What did Vikramaditya do? He wasn't too upset when Vijayaditya VII, a fellow Chalukya, joined the Cholas. Why? Because Vikramaditya might have secretly helped or encouraged him to do that. He allowed the Cholas to take control of Vengi, which was an important region. He hoped that by helping Chola Emperor Veera Rajendra, he could gain the Chola king's trust and support. If Vikramaditya got Veera Rajendra's support, he could become the Chalukya king without having to fight his brothers or cousins in a bloody war. His bigger goal. He wanted to end the long war between the Cholas and Chalukyas. These two dynasties had been fighting for more than 50 years, and both sides had suffered a lot. Vikramaditya thought, if I bring peace between us, I can rise to power and save both families. What do we know about Vikramaditya as a person? Sadly, we don't have full, clear records about his life. Most of what we know comes from little pieces of history and one famous poem. That poem, Vikramankadeva Charitam, a poet named Bilhana, who came from Kashmir, joined Vikramaditya's court. He wrote a Mahakavya, a grand Sanskrit poem that praised Vikramaditya. In the poem, Vikramaditya is shown as a heroic, ideal king, almost like the legendary King Rama from the Ramayana. But that's not fully true. The truth, yes, Vikramaditya was very smart, very capable, a good politician, but he was not a perfect godlike king, as the poem says. He was a real person. He made deals, made sacrifices, and played politics to reach his goals. Final summary in one paragraph. Prince Vikramaditya of the Kalyana Chalukyas was a brilliant and ambitious leader who used clever strategies to try and become king. Instead of fighting directly, he supported the Cholas by helping them control Vengi. In return, he hoped they would support his claim to the Chalukya throne. He wasn't bothered when Vijayaditya VII joined the Cholas. He may have planned it. He also hoped to end the long, painful war between the Cholas and Chalukyas. Though a Sanskrit poem later called him a perfect king like Rama, the real Vikramaditya was not perfect. He was a skilled and realistic leader who used diplomacy and planning to achieve power. Would you like me to show a diagram or chart of all the people and their goals to make it easier to follow? Here is a great, deep, detailed summary of the entire passage in the simplest words possible, so that anyone, even a beginner or child, can fully understand everything about Prince Vikramaditya VI of the Kalyana Chalukyas and how he grew up. Deep summary of the passage. Prince Vikramaditya was born into the Chalukya royal family at a difficult time. Before he was born, the Chalukyas had lost their original capital city, Manyaketa, which was attacked and destroyed by the Cholas, their powerful southern enemies. After that loss, the Chalukya kings moved their capital to a new city called Kalyana. So, Vikramaditya and his brothers and sisters were among the first generation of Chalukya royals to grow up in Kalyana. That became their true home. As a young boy, Vikramaditya lived inside the royal palace of Kalyana, mostly surrounded by the women of the palace. These would have been his mother, aunts, female attendants, and teachers, the women in charge of raising and caring for royal children. Since his father, King Sameshvaraman, and grandfather, Jayasimha Sek, were usually away at war, Vikramaditya was raised at home and educated by Brahmin teachers, who were wise men trained in religious, moral, and royal knowledge. According to his royal court poet, Vikramaditya showed signs of bravery very early. He is said to have chased swans and teased baby lions in cages, which suggests that the palace might have had a private zoo, a menagerie. Whether this story is true or just poetic praise, it shows that he was seen as bold and fearless even as a child. As he got older, Vikramaditya was trained true prince in every way. He learned how to fight using dagger, spear, how to perform and show his fighting skills in front of the court in a royal arena near the palace, how to enjoy and appreciate royal pleasures like poetry, art, architecture, music, beautiful clothing, and fine jewelry, romantic and sensual knowledge, which was part of elite royal education in those days. He dressed richly, wearing silk robes, sandalwood paste on his body, oiled hair, and fine jewelry. He looked every bit like a king in waiting. He also met and interacted with powerful generals and vassal kings. These were important men who served his father and grandfather. They came to the palace for royal ceremonies, bringing gifts and pledging loyalty. Vikramaditya learned how to talk with them politely and wisely, forming relationships with them. These meetings helped him build his own group of supporters, who began to see him as a strong and worthy future king. In short, Prince Vikramaditya VI was born just after the Chalukyas lost their old capital. He grew up in Kalyana, raised inside the royal palace with noble women and wise teachers. While his father and grandfather were away at war, he became a brave, smart, and cultured prince. He learned how to fight, dress, rule, and impress. He built friendships with powerful men. Soon, many people began to support him as the future ruler, because he looked, acted, and learned like a true king. Would you like me to continue the story of Vikramaditya V's life after this point? Here is a great, deeply detailed, and simple summary of the entire passage, like beginner or child. I will explain by step, connecting all the ideas together so you fully understand the story and what it means. Deep and simple summary. In the year 1042 CE, a powerful king named Sameshvaraya from the Western Chalukya dynasty became ruler. People said he was fortune's favorite, which means he was lucky and successful. But even though he was king, he couldn't stop the secret power struggles, called politicking, that were happening inside his royal family, especially between his own sons. Shvara had two main sons, Vikramaditya VI, the younger son, who was very smart, brave, and talented. The other was his older son, who was also named Sameshvara, just like their father. And he was expected to become king next, only because he was older, not because he had done anything great. Both sons had been taught from childhood to respect their father and follow the values written in Hindu scriptures and legends. These teachings, called filial piety, said sons must be loyal and obedient to their fathers. But just because they learned these things doesn't mean they truly followed them. On the outside, they showed respect, but inside, they were competing for the throne. Still, the father gave Vikramaditya an important job in the kingdom. Why? Because the Deccan region, which is the middle part of India, was under attack from many sides, and Someshvara needed his younger son's skill in battle and diplomacy. To strengthen his family's power, the king also arranged for Vikramaditya to marry Chalukya, a woman from a powerful family in the Konkan region, western coast of India. This kind of marriage was not only about love, it was a political alliance, a smart way to gain more support in that area. The marriage probably happened after the king had fought a war in Konkan around 1046 to 1047. Soon after, Vikramaditya started leading the king's armies against the Cholas, a mighty empire in southern India. In 1055, his father sent him to Malwa, a region in central India, to represent the king and help rule there. While he was in Malwa, Vikramaditya played a big role in helping a new king rise to power. But even after all this success, the older brother was still being chosen as the next king, even though he had fewer achievements. Vikramaditya had done far more, but his older brother had the advantage of being firstborn. By 1061, Vikramaditya returned to the south and fought a battle against the Cholas at Kudala Sangama in present-day Karnataka. Around this time, Rajaraja Narendra, the king of Vengi, a region in Andhra Pradesh, died. His death shook up the entire political situation in South India because many kingdoms had connections with Vengi, and now power was shifting again. After this, Vikramaditya went to Chhattisgarh, where he teamed up with the Hoysala chiefs from southern Karnataka. These Hoysalas were rising leaders, always ready for action. Together, they fought against Rajaga, a rival from the Vengi Chalukya side, to capture a very important fort called Chakrakuta. This fort had a strategic location, meaning it was very useful for controlling land and movement of armies. From all of this, leading armies, managing politics, forming alliances, we can see that Vikramaditya was extremely skilled in both war and diplomacy. He was smart, brave, and clever, so it's easy to understand why he didn't want his less talented older brother to become king. Vikramaditya believed he should be the next ruler of the Chalukya capital at Kalyana. Key points in short. Someshvara became king in 1042. His sons, especially Vikramaditya, were fighting for power behind the scenes. Vikramaditya was talented, brave, and smart. He married Chandralekha to form a powerful alliance. He led wars against the Cholas and helped choose rulers in Malwa. Despite his skills, his older brother was picked to be king next, just because of age. Vikramaditya returned south, fought at Kudala Sangama, and later at Chakrakuta with Hoysalas. He believed he deserved the throne, not his older brother. Would you like a character chart or timeline of these events too? Absolutely. Let's now go even deep, still keeping it very simple, like teaching a curious beginner or a child. I'll walk you through the whole story in very small steps, adding extra details, background, and simple examples wherever needed. Part 1. Who is W? Let's first understand the main characters and places involved. Number 1. Someshvara I, king of the Western Chalukya dynasty, ruled from city of Kalyana in Karnataka. Titled Great King of Kings, called Fortune's Fate. By 1067, he was very sick, probably dying. Nashar 2. Vikramaditya VI, one of Someshvara's sons, very clever, brave, and ambitious, wanted to become king, but he was not the eldest son. 3. Jayasimha, youngest brother of Vikramaditya, helped Vikramaditya in secret to take power. 4. Veera Rajendra Chola, the powerful Chola emperor, ruler of Tamil Nadu, a longtime enemy of the Chalukya kings. 5. Adirajendra Chola, Veera Rajendra's son, the future Chola king. Part 2. Step by step. Step 1. The king is dying. 1067. Someshvara, the king of the Chalukyas, was very sick, probably had a fever or some disease. He was in his palace, probably in pain, maybe confused, and knew his end was near. Imagine, like an old king lying in bed, too weak to sit up, while outside, people are already preparing to fight for the throne. Step 2. Vikramaditya is in Banavasi. Vikramaditya was far from the capital. He was in Banavasi, a city with old importance. Long ago, Pulakeshin Su, an earlier Chalukya king and Vikramaditya's claimed ancestor, had won a battle there and became famous. So Vikramaditya was in a place connected to Chalukya pride. Why is this important? He may have been gathering support from people who remembered Chalukya greatness. Step 3. Vikramaditya starts planning to steal the throne. Instead of waiting peacefully, Vikramaditya and his younger brother, Jayasimha, began secretly planning to take the throne. This was treason, going against your father and brother while your father is still alive. Simple example. Imagine your father is very sick, and instead of helping, you and your younger brother start planning to take over the house and tell everyone else to follow you instead of your big brother. Step 4. He gathers allies, Kadambas and Alupas. Local rulers like the Kadamba lords of Goa and the Alupas of Karnataka said, "Yes, Vikramaditya, we will help you." Why would they help him? Maybe they trusted Vikramaditya more. They didn't like the elder brother. They wanted favors or rewards when Vikramaditya became king. So now Vikramaditya had an army of supporters. Step 5. Meeting the enemy, the Chola Emperor. The Kadamba and Alupa allies helped arrange something very bold, a secret meeting between Vikramaditya and the Chola Emperor, Veera Rajendra. This was shocking, because Cholas and Chalukyas were fierce enemies for years, but Vikramaditya was ready to make friends with the enemy to win the throne. Step 6. Friendship with the enemy. Vikramaditya sat side by side with Veera Rajendra. They spoke like friends, made rituals to seal their promises. Veera Rajendra promised, "I will help you become king if you let me keep control of Vengi, a rich and important area in Andhra Pradesh." This was a trade. Vikramaditya gets the throne of the Chalukyas. Veera Rajendra gets to keep Vengi for the Cholas. Step 7. A marriage alliance. Soon after, Vikramaditya married the daughter of Veera Rajendra. He entered Kanchi, the Chola capital, not as a conqueror, but as a groom. Symbolism. His ancestor, Vikramaditya Sikhi, had entered Kanchi long ago with swords to attack. But this Vikramaditya came with wedding drums to form a peaceful bond. Step 8. Support for Adhirajendra. As part of this marriage deal, Vikramaditya agreed to support Veera Rajendra's son, Adhirajendra, as the next Chola king. This made the alliance even stronger. So now, Vikramaditya had support from local kings, the Chola Emperor, and the Chola royal family. He was fully prepared to take the throne, even if it meant betraying his own elder brother. Step 9. What was Someshvara doing? No one knows exactly what King Someshvara was feeling or thinking. He was probably in delirium, a state of confusion and sickness. Maybe he didn't even know what was happening. Or maybe he saw the betrayal clearly, but was too weak to stop it. Very tragic. Like an old lion lying down while his cubs fight over his crown. Step 10. Someshvara gives up. In the year 1068, Someshvara finally told the court, "I cannot continue. My rule is over." This was like a final goodbye, as he knew death was near and the struggle for power was about to explode. Final summary, deep but simple. Someshvara, king of the Chalukyas, was dying in 1067. His younger son, Vikramaditya, was plotting to become king, even though he wasn't the heir. He gathered local rulers to support him. He even made peace with the Cholas, his family's enemies. He married the Chola emperor's daughter, sealing a powerful alliance. He promised to support the Chola prince in exchange for Chola help. The sick king may have known or not known what was happening. In 1068, Someshvara admitted his rule was over. Vikramaditya was ready to take the throne, and history would soon change. Would you like me to explain what happens next after this moment? Or a map or timeline to make this part even clearer? Sure. Here's a deep, clear, and very simple summary of everything, with added background and context, like teaching a beginner or a child. I'll walk you through the story step by step, slowly and clearly, explaining all key points, feelings, and meanings. Deep, detailed summary, in very simple English. In the year 1068, a very sad and important event happened in South Indian history. in a region called the Deccan. It involved a great king named Someshvara, who ruled the Kalyana Chalukya dynasty, one of the most powerful kingdoms in South India during that time. On the morning of March 29, 1068, King Someshvara did something shocking and sorrowful. He walked into the river Tungabhadra and drowned himself. Let's understand this step by step. 1. Why is this day important and terrible? Because the ruler of a huge kingdom ended his own life. When a king dies, especially by suicide, it creates shock, sadness, confusion, and political chaos. This was not just a personal tragedy, it was a big historical event. 2. What happened that day? On that cold morning, King Someshvara stood in the holy river Tungabhadra. His court, which means his royal staff, ministers, and guards, stood around him quietly and respectfully. He had already said goodbye to everyone, his last words and final farewells. Then the king stepped deeper into the river. The water slowly rose from his feet to his chest and neck. The eddies, swirling water, moved around his body. Finally, the king submerged himself completely. This means he drowned on purpose. This was likely done as a ritual suicide, possibly for religious, health, or political reasons. In some traditions, dying in a sacred river was believed to give peace and go straight to heaven, especially to Lord Shiva, a major Hindu god. Later, a poet from the Chalukya court wrote that the king had gone to the city of moon-crested Shiva, meaning Shiva's heavenly home. The river's loud waves were like a final musical farewell as the king left this world. 3. Who was Someshvara? He was not just any king. He was called Fortune's favorite, meaning he was considered lucky and successful. Earth's beloved, meaning he was loved by his people. Great king of kings, meaning he ruled over many smaller kings. He was powerful, respected, and once very fortunate. But by the end, he was likely tired, betrayed, or defeated by circumstances. 4. What happened after his death? Only 13 days later, on April 11, 1068, Someshvara's elder son became the new king. His name was Someshvarasit, and he took on big royal titles too, like Bhuvanai Kamala, meaning champion of the world or wrestler of the earth. This title wasn't just for show, it meant something deeper. He knew something important. His younger brothers, especially one named Vikramaditya, were plotting and scheming to take power. He understood their tricks, their ambitions, and their plans to possibly overthrow him. 5. What did Someshvara II do? Even though he knew they were dangerous, he was forced to give his brothers official power by naming them governors of different regions, especially in southern Karnataka. Why? Because the brothers were popular or had their own supporters. He couldn't fight them directly at that time. It was a political compromise to keep peace, for now. But he didn't trust them. So Someshvara II surrounded himself with loyal generals, army men who would protect him and fight for him. His goal was to strengthen his rule, and one day defeat or humble his treacherous brothers. In short, a great king, Someshvara ended his life in a holy river in 1068. His death shocked the kingdom. His son Someshvara VI became king, but had to deal with dangerous younger brothers. Even though he gave them some power, he prepared to defend himself and possibly defeat them later. Why is this important in history? Because it shows how family struggles and jealousy can cause big royal problems. It marks the start of a power struggle between brothers in the Chalukya dynasty. It shows how even powerful kings can feel trapped, tired, or betrayed. It sets the stage for Vikramaditya VI, a younger brother who would soon rise in power and change the future of South India. Would you like me to now explain what Vikramaditya did next? His story becomes even more dramatic. Here's a deep, detailed summary of the events you just read, written in very clear, simple language to help you fully understand everything like a beginner. Half summary, the turning point in the Chalukya Chola power game, 1070 CE. This part of history describes a dramatic and complex political struggle that happened in 1070 CE between the western Chalukyas of the Deccan, Karnataka region, and the Cholas of Tamil Nadu, The central figures are Vikramaditya Vasis, a smart, ambitious Chalukya prince, Someshvara II, his elder brother and the ruling king, and Veera Rajendra, Vikramaditya's father-in-law and the Chola emperor. Star 1. Vikramaditya's plan is working at first. Vikramaditya wanted to take the Chalukya throne from his brother, Someshvara II. He had strong support from his father-in-law, the Chola emperor Veera Rajendra. Veera Rajendra sent his army into Chalukya territory, Deccan, to weaken Someshvara II. Someshvara II barely fought back. His defense was weak and didn't stop the invasion. After this, Vikramaditya took control of Gangavati, an important region near the Chola border in southern Karnataka. He called himself king there and even used imperial, emperor-like titles, even though he hadn't yet officially become the emperor of the whole Chalukya kingdom. 2. A bigger invasion was coming. Vikramaditya and the Chola emperor were getting ready for a full-scale military intervention. The plan was to remove Someshvara II and make Vikramaditya the new emperor of the Chalukya kingdom. Vikramaditya also planned to return the favor. Once he became Chalukya emperor, he would help his brother-in-law, Adhirajendra, Veera Rajendra's son, become the next Chola king. It was a big mutual agreement. You help me become emperor in Karnataka. I help your son become emperor in Tamil Nadu. 3. A sudden death shatters everything. In 1070, the Chola emperor Veera Rajendra suddenly died. This was a huge blow to Vikramaditya. His military support vanished, and the plan to take the throne with Chola help collapsed. Vikramaditya was now on his own, without any outside army to back him. He could only hope that Adhirajendra, his brother-in-law, could become the next Chola king by himself, and maybe help later. Until then, Vikramaditya had to wait and find a chance to fight his brother alone. 4. Someshvara II gets confident and strikes back. Someshvara II felt relieved and confident when he heard that the Chola emperor had died. He saw this as his chance to show power and fight back against his brother's growing influence. So he gathered his army and attacked the kingdom of Malwa in central India. Malwa was important because years earlier, Vikramaditya had helped choose a friendly ruler there after King Bhoja died. Someshvara's goal was to remove that friendly ruler and weaken Vikramaditya's support in the north. What this means? This moment in 1070 CE was a key turning point. Vikramaditya had almost grabbed power, but then his biggest supporter died. He had to slow down and rethink his plans. Someshvara II, who had looked weak before, now got a second chance to act strong and make his move. This was not just a family fight. It was a big power struggle between two mighty empires, Chalukyas and Cholas, with political marriages, alliances, and military campaigns all mixed in. It shows how fast power can change when a single person, like the Chola emperor, suddenly dies. Would you like me to continue the next part of this history after 1070? What happened to Vikramaditya, Someshvara II, and the Chola throne? Here is a great, deep, and very detailed summary of the full Pascave in the simplest possible language, like teaching a beginner. What is this all about? This story is about a big power struggle that happened in southern India around the year 1071 CE. It was mainly between two big dynasties. The Cholas ruled Tamil Nadu. The Chalukyas ruled parts of Karnataka and Andhra. The focus here is on who would become king in the Chola kingdom after the old Chola king, Veera Rajendra, died. Main people in the story. 1. Veera Rajendra Chola. He was the Chola king who died around 1070. 2. Adhirajendra Chola, his son, a young prince, not very powerful or experienced. 3. Vikramaditya VI, a powerful prince from the Chalukya dynasty, married to Veera Rajendra's daughter, so he was Adhirajendra's brother-in-law. 4. Rajiga Vengi Chalukya, a different Chalukya ruler who suddenly tried to take the Chola throne by calling himself Rajendra Chola. What happened in simple steps? 1. Death of Veera Rajendra, 1070 CE. The Chola king, Veera Rajendra, died. His son, Adhirajendra, became king. But Adhirajendra was young and not known for winning any battles. People didn't trust his strength as a leader. 2. Rajiga appears. Out of nowhere, Rajiga Vengi Chalukya shows up. He rules land near Kanchi, which is close to the Chola heartland. He gives himself the name Rajendra Chola, trying to sound like he belonged to the Chola royal family. He says, "I am from both the Chola and Chalukya lineages. My blood is royal from both sides." 3. Propaganda and image building. Rajiga writes stone inscriptions saying he won wars in Chhattisgarh. He behaved like a real king. He uses stories from Hindu mythology, Puranas, to say Cholas came from the sun god, Chalukyas came from the moon god. He has both sun and moon in his blood. He even rebrands the Chalukya boar symbol, which Tamils hated, as something gentle and divine, like Vishnu saving the earth. This was a smart move to win Tamil people's hearts. Adirajendra's weak position. Adhirajendra still had some support from his father's old ministers, the Kaveri Delta region, which was rich, but in reality, his control was weak. His power was mostly on paper. Maybe if he had more time, he could have convinced people he was the true heir of Rajendra Vir, the great Chola conqueror. 5. Sudden death of Adhirajendra, 1071 CE. Unfortunately, Adhirajendra died very soon after, in late 1071. He may have died from gangrene, a serious infection that kills body parts. With his death, the last strong Chola bloodline king was gone. Why is this important? This was a major turning point in South Indian history. The Chola Empire became very unstable after this. The Chalukyas, especially people like Rajiga and Vikramaditya Vist, started to gain more control in the south. Rajiga tried to blend two royal identities, Chola and Chalukya. The struggle for the Chola throne now became a contest between outsiders, not just Chola blood princes. Big themes in this story. 1. Power struggle after a king dies, very common in monarchy-based kingdoms. 2. Use of myths and propaganda. Rajiga uses Hindu myths to make himself look divine and rightful. 3. Political marriage. Vikramaditya VI tried to use his marriage to a Chola princess to gain power. 4. Unexpected deaths changing history. If Adhirajendra had lived, history might have gone differently. 5. Clever image building. Rajiga changed people's feelings about the Chalukya symbol and about himself. Would you like me to now give a family tree, a timeline, or a map of these events to make everything even easier to understand? Here is a deep, detailed, and very simple summary of the full pave, explained clearly so stand. I'll organize it into short, easy-to-follow parts. 1. Rajiga Rajendra takes over the Tamil region. After Adhirajendra Chola, the last heir of the main Chola line, died, a new person named Rajiga from the Chalukya dynasty stepped in and took control of the Chola lands. Rajiga was a Chalukya prince, but since he ruled from the Chola capital, he called himself a Chola king too, Rajendra Chola. To make himself sound even more powerful, he claimed he had blood from both the Cholas, Sun dynasty, and Chalukya's, Moon dynasty, like saying, "I'm from both great royal families." 2. Winning over the local Tamil lands. Rajiga's officials, called courtiers, spread out into northern Tamil Nadu, especially the region once ruled by the Pallavas, like around Kanchipuram. The Cholas earlier had conquered this land, but they never truly made it part of their central kingdom. Rajiga's team did something clever. Instead of trying to fully control everything, they let local big men and farming assemblies, like village councils, keep their rights and power. This made local leaders happy, and Rajiga gained support without needing to fight too much. This was a new style of ruling. Instead of central control, power was shared across many hands. This system is called decentralized. 3. The rise of Rajiga as Kulotunga Chola. By the year 1074 CE, Rajiga officially became emperor of the Chola Empire. He ruled from Gangai Konda Cholapuram, a city built by the great Rajendra Chola. He took the new royal name Kulotunga Chola, which means the peak of his lineage, a way of saying he was the greatest of his family. Historians call him Rajiga Kulotunga to remind us that he was both a Chalukya prince and a Chola emperor. Vikramaditya is squeezed between two rulers. In the north, Rajiga Kulotunga's brother, named Someshvara Su, was now stable on his throne. In the south, Rajiga Kulotunga had taken over the Chola lands. Vikramaditya VI, another Chalukya prince, was caught between them, under great pressure. 5. Vikramaditya's growing power. Vikramaditya had already been very successful in wars, which made many soldiers and nobles in the Deccan believe he would make a better emperor than his brother. He acted with great confidence, and many people started choosing sides. The Chalukya Empire began splitting. Part of it supported Someshvara II, and part supported Vikramaditya. Someshvara stayed in the capital, Kalyana, traveling around the Deccan, giving land to gain support, but it wasn't enough. 6. The empire is on the edge of civil war. Vikramaditya took a grand new title, Tribhuvanamala, which means the wrestler of the three worlds, showing he was ready to rule the whole universe. Local rulers, from the Konkan coast to the Narmada River, were choosing sides in what was clearly about to become a civil war between him and his brother. Vikramaditya was likely to win. It was just a matter of when the war would start. Total summary in one paragraph. After the Chola prince Adhirajendra died, a Chalukya prince named Rajiga took the Chola throne, cleverly gaining support by respecting local powers and calling himself Kulotunga Chola. He created a new style of ruling with shared power and became emperor in 1074 CE. Meanwhile, his brother Someshvara ruled the northern Deccan, while another powerful Chalukya prince, Vikramaditya VI, was stuck between them. Vikramaditya, with a strong military record and bold public image, began attracting followers, causing the Chalukya Empire to split. Civil war seemed certain, and Vikramaditya was expected to win. The only question was when the battle would begin. Would you like this turned into a timeline, a character map, or a comic-style story summary next?